The following program will make you want to grow things and experience new and wonderful dreams about your plants, garden, and garden design. Listener participation is always strongly advised. Good evening and welcome to Down the Garden Path with your hosts Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101. To contact us live right now in the studio, send us an email. Our email address is instudio101@gmail.com. And now, right to your hosts of Down the Garden Path, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing.
Thank you, Gary, and welcome, everyone. Welcome, Matthew.
Welcome, Joanne.
Welcome to Down the Garden Path, where we discuss down-to-earth tips and advice for your plants, gardens, and landscapes. We think it is important and possible to have great gardens that are low maintenance, and we love talking about a variety of different landscaping topics as well. I'm Joanne Shaw, landscape designer and owner of Down to Earth Landscape Design for the past 10 years. It is currently a design-only business here east of the GTA.
Hey, everyone, and I am Matthew Dressing, a local horticulturist and landscape designer, currently working in a local garden center, but also starting off on my own with Natural Affinity Designs, again, a local design kind of maintained thing going on in the GTA. So here on Down the Garden Path, Joanne and I enjoy each week bringing you interesting, relevant, and helpful topics to help you achieve a great garden. We learn right along with you from each other, from our research, or from our guests that join us here. And we welcome social media questions and emails, but tonight we do have a caller.
We do. A call-in guest.
A call-in guest, yes. Daniel Eggert.
That's right. So tonight on the show, we are going to learn about a nonprofit organization called Worldwide Opportunities on Organic Farms, short form for WWOOF. I guess the short form is WWOOF. And I'm really excited to have Daniel back on the show. He is the organic brand manager at Harris Seeds, and he joined us a few weeks ago even. It hasn't been that long. Oh. And he mentioned this program. So he is a graduate of SUNY Oswego with a BA in business. And in the winter of 2016, he did field work and organic farming with host families in South Australia through the WWOOF program. I invited Daniel back on the show to tell us all about this organization and his experience. Welcome to the show, Daniel.
Thanks, Joanne and Matthew. It's awesome to be back on.
I'm so glad. I just wanted to thank you so much for bringing this organization to my attention. And since we met and had you on the show, it has definitely popped up for me in numerous places. It's kind of interesting how that happened.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was just up north of my cottage, and there's an organic farm right down the road, and they were actually WWOOF hosts, which was really cool to see.
Yeah, and we've had Steve Lawrence on the show.
Yes.
He's a bee farmer in our area, and I've had him on 2 or 3 times, Gary. I think we've had Steve Lawrence on.
We have, yes.
Yeah, and this summer, as he's expanding his operation, going from just bee farming to more of a farm, he's been posting all the different woofers, he calls them, that have been visiting his farm, or have been working on his farm this past season. So that has been great. I thought I thought I'd just start with just a description from the website. Does that help?
Go ahead.
WWOOF.net. So WWOOF is a worldwide movement linking volunteers with organic farmers and growers to promote cultural and educational experiences based on trust and non-monetary exchange, thereby helping to build a sustainable global community. As a volunteer, or WWOOFer as we call them, you will live alongside your host, helping with daily tasks and experiencing life as a farmer. As a host, you will open your home to receive visitors from your own country or abroad who want to connect with the land and support the organic movement. I thought that was just a great summary.
It is.
Yep, and it's exactly how it's described. It was I just basically lived with families and traded some labor for just a roof to stay under and some food. And I mean, I wouldn't do it any other way. I really didn't want compensation for what I was doing over there.
Wow. So how did you first hear about it?
So my friend, she went to the Peace Corps in Mongolia, and she had heard about it through the Peace Corps. And I was looking into the Peace Corps. I really wanted to travel, but also learn through a volunteer program. But, I mean, 27 months is just such a long commitment, so I didn't want to go for that long.
Yeah, I don't blame
you.
What
I ended up doing was researching WWOOF, and it just sounded like it perfectly aligned with my values and what I was trying to learn. And I just started going about researching it more, and it just sounded like the perfect opportunity to travel, experience new culture, and, learn organic farming.
Wow. So you had some experience at farming before and you had interest in it before this.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I was, before I was working seasonal at Harris Seeds and also running a contracting business, and my ultimate goal was just to become self-sufficient and eventually have my own homestead and just basically grow my own food and do everything myself. But I really wanted to learn the commercial side of growing and, producing a large quantity of food. I always had a garden, but never in the capacity that I was going to produce all my own food. So I wanted to go over, and I decided to go to Australia because I just wanted to travel as well, and it was their spring. So I just decided that was probably the perfect opportunity to go travel the world and learn how to organic farm.
Wow. So when did you leave? So if it was their spring, when was it here?
Yeah, so their spring is they're about 5 months ahead of us. So
Okay.
They're just kind of getting into what we would call, May or April. But they're much hotter than we are in the Northeast here. They're probably reaching about 80s by now in May, which what we consider May.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Wow. So what did you know off the bat because you could go anywhere in the world. So I just want our listeners to know that this is something the list is on the website is quite extensive of the countries. So how did you narrow it down, or was this where you wanted to go?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously there's over 100 countries that you can WWOOF in. I was narrowing it down between. One of the big factors was language barrier. I didn't want to go to a country and have to be limited by my travel by how much of the language I could actually speak, which I don't speak anything other than English fluently.
Yeah.
So I said that was basically a big checkbox for me, and Australia was perfect because they obviously speak English. I was also looking at South America, and the language barrier didn't really throw me off because I know that they also speak English as well as a secondary language very fluently.
Yeah.
And their kind of timing for seasonality was right around the same timing as Australia.
Okay.
Maybe a WWOOF trip for the future for me. We'll see if it's in the cards. But Australia just kind of checked all the boxes for me, and it's just all the way around the world. And it's actually really funny because Australia's culture and the way it kind of became a civilization is actually pretty similar to ours. It was immigrants coming from Europe, actually kind of cast out by European societies, and as they were kind of prisoners, they were just kind of dumping all their prisoners into Australia, and then they kind of took over the native lands and just kind of became a society that way, and it's very similar to American history, really.
And Canadian, really. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, and I'm Canadian as well.
Yeah. You could have come to Canada. We do speak English here, too. But that.
Well, that might have been winter then.
I know exactly. That would have been very warm, and we were no farming done at the same time where you are. So yeah, no, I could see definitely how Australia, both with the English, with the culture, as also with the calendar year, so you didn't miss spring at home, kind of thing. So how long were you gone for?
I had left at the end of September, and I got home. I think it was 2 weeks into December, so it was about a 2.5 months worth of travel.
Okay, but you could have gone longer.
Yeah, I really wish I did. Once you get there and you get told all these different experiences you should take part in.
Yeah.
I mean, I really wanted to go to New Zealand and Tasmania because it just sounded like such a beautiful place. I really wanted to also. I really just stayed in a really just regional part of Australia, which is South Australia. I never actually saw any of like Sydney or Melbourne or any of the north end of Australia. I mean, Australia is huge. It's the 5th largest country right behind America. And so I really just stayed. It was like if I just stayed kind of in New York, really.
Yeah, but you had to stay somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. I didn't want to travel too far in case it kind of went south for me.
Yeah. Yeah. So was it an easy process, like, signing up and finding because not only did you have to then pick the country, but then you had to pick the hosts.
Yeah, so the process is pretty seamless and simple. You basically pay for a membership, which I think Australia's was $70, which was actually $55 American, probably right around the same for Canadian.
Yeah.
Which is very cheap, and with the membership, you get a whole host list and all their contact information. It also signs you up to be a part of the forum that they have online. And it comes with an application for your phone that you can actually really simply search. You can favorite hosts. They have descriptions of every host on it. So once I paid for the membership, it was pretty easy just, picking where I wanted to go, finding interesting hosts that I can learn from, and then contacting them.
Very cool. And they were responsive and everything.
Yeah, I actually contacted them too early from what everyone said. I read on the forum that you should contact them 6 months in advance in case they were like a popular host that, got a lot of demand. But every host I contacted were like, "Whoa, I contacted them in March, which is 6 months ahead of time," and they're like, "Oh, we're not even thinking about this time of the year."
Oh, that's funny. That is funny. Well, I guess it's better to be early than late, right?
Yeah, exactly. And once they heard that I had contracting and carpentry skills, I think I was just front in line and had a to-do list as soon as I got there.
Oh, nice. That is cool. Oh, my goodness. Oh, goodness. What do you think, Matthew?
It sounds very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think Matthew's ready to book an airplane ticket. Yeah.
Thinking, where am I going to go?
And I'm wishing I was 30 years younger. I'm thinking this would have been a great experience. Yeah. Does everybody who applies, do you think, is that what you're going to ask?
Yeah, I was going to say, so does everybody who applies, do they get into the program, or is there like a vetting type of procedure?
Yeah, I think there was just a general background background check that they did. But it's pretty simple. You just pay for the membership and contact the hosts. When I was staying with a couple of hosts, they said that the main reason that they wouldn't accept anybody was because it looked like they were sending mass emails. So a lot of the influx of people that they would get in Australia, or woofers that they would get in Australia, were from Asian countries that had to fill a gap year for their college or university.
Oh, okay.
And so what a lot of them would do is they would just mass email these hosts, and if it looked like, that they were just using an English translator to put together an email and just mass send it, and didn't really take any sentimental time to put together something about, what the host's summary was and why they wanted to go there, then they were just like, we don't really want anybody that actually just didn't really take the time to, read our description, really.
Yeah. Because then that definitely shows a level of I don't know, I don't know what it shows, but I know what you mean. I could see that.
Yeah, it was just more like a personal touch that they would, they liked if you were trying to personally connect with them. And I mean, you're living in their house, you're, eating dinner with them every day, so they want to have someone connect with them that's actually going to be, personally involved in what your goals are.
Yeah. And so you chose a type of farm that, because you can choose a variety of different things, at least according to the website. You can do the wine, you can do like a bunch of different types of farms. So were you looking for something in particular? A certain size?
I kind of diversified what I was looking for because I wanted to experience as much as possible in such a small area that I could get, stay in. So I stayed with 5 different hosts. I contacted about 8 of them. I really wanted to stay on this oyster farm that was like you basically lived on a barge and you harvested organic oysters, but
really?
they never contacted me back.
Oh my goodness, really? Oysters?
That'd be cool.
Wow.
Yeah, that would have been really cool, but I ended up, getting in contact with 5 different hosts. The first host I stayed with, they were a family that had a little girl, and they basically kind of had their homestead that I helped build a wooden fence for them. We tended to some of their gardens. I slept in a tree fort a couple times, which was really cool, under the stars and with the koalas.
Oh my, that's cool.
Yeah, and I stayed with them for a week. Most of the hosts I stayed with were only about a week and a half time period.
Okay.
I did stay with a farm that they basically ran an organic vineyard. They had made their own cheese. They made their own beer and cider. And what I did for them was I stayed with them for about 3 to 4 weeks, and I actually built them a winery out of all recycled materials, which we just found along the farm, and we bought from this recycled timber yard, and everything was basically recycled except for the nails and some of the sheetrock or gyprock or drywall, as they would call it.
Okay.
Over there, and basically just built them a winery so they could process all their wine in.
Wow. And so you did that in 5 weeks, you said?
It was about 4 weeks
4
collectively.
weeks.
It wasn't that big. It was about 20 feet by 15 feet wide.
Right.
So it was a good size to process a personal amount of wine in, but that was such a cool project, and I learned so much from that farm. They had like lamb and goats, and they had a ton of chickens. They call them chooks over there. A small vegetable garden and a wine or a vineyard.
Wow, I can listen to you go on about it. That's great. So did you happen to keep in touch with anybody, or is that looked frowned upon, or I guess they can't keep up with everybody?
Oh, no, I sent them an email. I actually just emailed the farm I stayed with and built the winery for. I emailed them today.
Oh, really?
I just was like, hey, I'm doing this radio show. I think it's like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning there right now, so they're probably not listening. But I just emailed them and said, hey, I'm doing this radio show. I sent them the organic catalog. I sent it to them through the mail, and hopefully the government's not listening. I sent a couple seeds in there, too.
Oh, sneaky. Oh, that's very cool. Well, that is good. So that shows you that you were, with really good people.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And actually, the organic farm that I stayed on and built the winery for, one of them's from California, the other one's from Quebec. They actually had this really tight-knit community that had a couple Americans involved in it, and so they actually, when I went over there, I thought I was going to be experiencing this Australian culture, and I actually was, just having dinner with Americans pretty much every night.
Oh, that is so funny. Oh, my goodness. Well, it shows you sometimes that when you travel that the world is really a small place, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, for sure.
Oh, my goodness. And so was it flat? Did you set up that you'd be there only a week each, or is that something that they were only looking for people for a shorter time?
I've talked to host families that say that, people stay for months. And I just kind of try to divvy it up to get as much time as possible with that host family, and try to gain as much knowledge from them and, teaching from them as I possibly could. And I kind of had some rough dates of, okay, yeah, I'm going to be going to this farm, after like a week and a half. And, they were all very flexible about how long I stayed with them or, what kind of work I was doing. They would say, just do the work that, and just reach your goals and just whatever you have to ask of us and what we're doing in our practices, just ask away and we'll teach you anything you want. But, it was basically just all based on what I wanted to do, which is really nice. That was the cool thing about it was the host families were so flexible and so nice about everything that I never had a bad experience at all there.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
In your trips while you were with those host families, did you come across or were there other woofers there with you working the same farm? Or is it just kind of one volunteer per host family?
Yeah, so I went to this, I stayed with a couple farms or a couple host families on Kangaroo Island, it was called. And it's known by that name because there's more kangaroos than there are humans on the island.
Oh.
Which is really cool. But the only really volunteer I stayed with during that time frame was a French guy around the same age as me. He was actually going through a different program called HelpX, and that's a similar program, except it's not really farm oriented or gardening oriented. So he was just doing it just to kind of travel around and fill a gap year. And he was really nice, and he was actually there going to learn the language of English because that's what a lot of students do is they want to learn English. So they'll go to Australia or America and do these volunteer programs. But I met woofers, but they weren't actively woofing. Like I met this one guy in Kangaroo Island. He actually lived there as a host, but he actually just spent the last 6 months while I was there actually as a woofer. So he actually went, he was 80 years old, and he just went out and traveled for about 6 months and just woofed around all of Australia.
There you go. And you were saying you were wishing you were 30 years younger.
Absolutely.
Meanwhile,
so I thought
80.
this was like a young man's game. Like, really? 80 years old?
No, I mean, I've heard of 18 to, like I said, 80 years old. It's anyone and everyone can do it. It's and the host families, if it's getting a little labor intensive, they'll take it easy on you. They understand what your limitations are.
Wow. Well, that is still very interesting.
I think you and I both need to go, and it'll be down the garden path in the WWOOFer program.
Wow. I just wish I have 2 sons I wish would be really interested in something like this. So I've hinted since our last conversation the last time I as a mom, right, you're just nagging your children. So I forwarded him the email about the program or the website, for him to look at it. Cause I think I think not only is it an educational thing, but I think the fact that it's a great way to travel and see the world.
Yeah, absolutely.
What a life experience.
Because they pay for your food and your shelter, those are the big expensive things once you get to a country on spending your money for. So
right.
Literally, I just paid for my ticket, and I brought a lot of money because I just saved all year.
Okay.
But I really didn't need any of it. I did some things that I personally wanted to do that were just kind of fun and enjoyable things that I had to spend money on. But, I could have went there with probably $1 in my pocket and would have had just an awesome experience as I did if I had money.
Wow, that is cool.
That's very cool.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Let's go back a bit to before you traveled. So you've applied, you've hooked up with the hosts, and then now you're basically, it's just WWOOF, the organization doesn't get involved, right? You're organizing it with the host family.
Exactly. Yeah, they kind of just play their part as the platform and the network.
Okay.
And bringing the hosts and the woofers or volunteers together. And when I paid for the membership, it was basically from there. It was just me communicating with the hosts.
Okay.
I did communicate with the organization a little bit because I made a video about it, which is actually on YouTube.
Ooh.
I brought my GoPro over there, so if anyone wants to go see my YouTube video I made, it's just have to Google WWOOF South Australia, and my video should pop up. But they liked that, and they liked how I promoted WWOOF. So they actually sent me a free shirt and a bunch of information and handouts for everyone that I've come across. And that's really the only time I came in contact with the organization.
Okay, well, that's cool. Well, I'll definitely put that, see if I can find that link to or you can email me the link if I can't find it, and we can put that in the show notes, too.
Awesome. Yeah, that'd be great.
Excellent. Did you have to look into, did you have to get insurance, like even above and beyond, your regular travel insurance, in case something happened to the flight? Did you feel like you needed to do any of that?
Well, actually, the WWOOF program provided emergency insurance. So you actually got $10,000 worth of coverage through your membership payment.
Wow. Yeah, so if you fell off a ladder, right? You fell off a ladder, you cut your finger off or something horrible.
Yeah, luckily that never happened.
Good.
But, Australia is also a socialist country, and they have socialist health care like Canada does.
Yeah.
Hopefully the government's listening on this one, because I really hope we eventually get socialized health care.
Yeah. We're rooting for you. We really are rooting for you. But
it was nice.
Yeah, that's good. So that is great to know. So you didn't feel like you had to take out anything extra then?
No, not at all. There was people who recommended it, but they probably just recommended it because they had, worst case scenarios happen to them.
Yeah.
But I was just, I had that emergency coverage, and I was just careful. Half of injuries happen with just ignorance, really. So I was just really careful about what I was doing. And Australia being the one of the deadliest countries when it comes to animals in the world.
Insects.
I was always
checking
twice my back just to make sure a snake or a spider or anything that could, put me in the hospital really wasn't.
Yeah, that is one thing. Never mind cutting or falling or something like that. Yeah, that's one thing about Australia is, yes, they say that is one of with the animals and the insects.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The spiders, you had to check on everything you picked up. You had to just look around before you actually kind of grabbed it and started walking with it. I saw a bunch of poisonous spiders, and really, if you were in bad health, they could be troublesome, but they would just kind of cause a really big welt otherwise.
Okay. Did you sleep with your shoes on? I think I might have slept with my shoes on.
No, exactly. I was warned multiple times about that, and snakes were the big one. Those are the most poisonous animals that they have there that could really put you in some problems. But another cool thing I did was I actually went to this wildlife park that was basically a bunch of paddocks of kangaroos, and they had these emus actually. And the first time I came face to face, just standing next to an emu, no fence between us, just me and the emu. I actually fed the emu. Those things are 6.5 feet tall, and you're just looking at it oh my gosh, this is a dinosaur.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I feel like Jurassic Park, right? That little scene. Oh my goodness. So we do have a question from Mark. He's asking where he could find more information on this, and so there's quite a bit online. I thought their websites were excellent. I looked at the one I mentioned earlier. Do you have that number? Is that one handy? WWOOF.net, Mark. I was in Canada, so WWOOF.org, I think is the Canadian one. If you Google that, all the websites were really informative. A lot of frequently asked questions, which kind of what we're going through here, but I think it's more fun to do it on a podcast than to read through frequently asked questions, right, Daniel?
Yeah, absolutely. And I would just say, just kind of research some countries, because really every country has its own woofing page. And so just research, different countries that you'd like to travel to, and all of the WWOOF pages have pretty much the same information, and it's all really simplified and easy to access. So I would just start with, picking what countries you really want to go to and travel to.
Yeah. And I was so impressed to hear that, that you can do that in Canada as well. So I think that was a really, really neat thing, because it was a lot of, when Steve was posting on Facebook about it, a lot of South American people. So it's kind of the opposite, right? So they were coming here in our summer to work with the bees and the honey and that type of thing. So that was really really cool. So so definitely, I think there's lots of opportunities in the sense of skill sets on what type of farm that you can go to, as well as the country. So I think that's really cool. And so you think you would do it again?
Yeah, I would love to do it again. If I didn't get hired permanently at Harris Seeds, I'd probably be woofing somewhere right now. Maybe South America. I was looking at Iceland. I thought that would be a really cool country to go to.
I thought that was cool too.
The second time I did it, I would probably go to a country that there would be a language barrier, just so I can challenge myself a little bit more and try to learn a language. Maybe South America, India would be really cool. Any parts of Asia, maybe Thailand. I will eventually go to another country someday.
Yeah, Iceland's a kind of cool one because it's expensive to visit Iceland. Iceland is the in place to travel. I know I've had a lot of friends kind of go, now that we're all becoming kind of slightly empty nesters. It's been because you can go there for a short trip too, but it is, even Airbnbs are pricey. So that would be kind of a cool way to go and see the country. And I think then you'd really see the country too. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that would be
cool. I mean, you see places that aren't really in the tourist spots, which is really cool. Like when I was in Adelaide, Australia, I mean, I was kind of walking around the city, but then when your host comes and picks you up and then takes you to kind of a remote part of the outside of Adelaide, you really kind of experience the Australian culture after that. And I mean, a lot of the cities are kind of Americanized anyway. Any really bar or store you walk into, it's American music playing. They have American beer. So it was kind of I actually wanted to leave the cities out of the tourist spots so that I can actually experience the culture.
Yeah, I could see that, definitely. You definitely would find that the case. So when you arrived, so typically you experienced several different hosts. So was your accommodations typical across the board, or the treehouse sounded like that one was fun?
Yeah, so it was pretty typical. I mean, most of the hosts had a room for me to stay in. One of the hosts I stayed with, they actually had we actually built, and I did this with the Frenchman who was doing the helpbacks. We actually built this rock wall around what they were calling their woofing facility, where they would house the woofers. And I actually stayed in this permanent tent that they set up while we were doing that with the guy. So it was pretty typical, though. Most of them had just a spare bedroom that you would stay in. Others would, try to promote a more experienced living situation, like that treehouse. I stayed in the bedroom a couple nights, but I really wanted to stay in the treehouse because it's just an experience. You're in a different country. There's koalas and all these other types of wildlife around, and you're just looking up at the stars at night. It was a really cool experience staying in the treehouse. Yeah,
and you momentarily forgot about the whole snake and animal thing, Daniel. What happened? The world's most dangerous place.
You have a bug net around you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'd have a
mosquitoes, poisonous spiders, whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And so now the website said a typical work day you would work about 4 to 5 hours a day. It sounds like you did some major stuff. So I don't know, was that typical, or would you say you worked?
Yeah, so I would say, most of the hosts, they would say, worked 4 to 5 hours. I mean, I had, when I showed up to that one farm and built the winery, that was already a agreed upon goal that I was going to reach for them. So, I would spend 6 to 7 hours on those days, just kind of, I wouldn't say working overtime. I mean, it was a really fun experience, and I was being creative with it. So I would wake up in the morning and I would just look down and the day was already gone. So it wasn't even like I felt like I was really working.
Yeah.
But the last place I stayed at, they were a really big processing organic vineyard and winery. And I actually worked quite a bit of hours there, but that was really intensive, and I just learned so much. So I didn't even want to really stop working because I was just learning so much, and it was basically the same situation. I would wake up, start working and look down at the clock, and it was already 6 o'clock, and
Oh my goodness.
I was physically tired, but
Yeah.
I was just also like, wow, that was a full day's worth of experience right there.
Wow. So and because you're kind of in remote locations, it's not like you can leave at 3 and then go do some sightseeing and then come back, and right? So it's kind of.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that was in the Adelaide Hills, and I mean, they would give me a bottle of wine at the end of the day too, so that was always nice.
Oh, that's good. Well, I mean, and I guess spending time with them helped you experience the culture as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And like I said, they're very similar to Americans in most ways. But I mean, yeah, it helped. I never really wanted to leave or wanted to stop working. I always wanted to learn more and just always be hands-on with things. And so I just kept working.
Wow, that is great.
Very cool.
Yeah, I could really see that. Huh. So you were happy with the amount of free time that you had.
Yeah, absolutely. And, with some of the hosts, they would give me, like, a day off. Like, one guy I stayed with on Kangaroo Island, he actually drove me around the whole island and looked at all the scenic parts of it, like the national parks. There's this place called Remarkable Rocks and the Grand Arch there, which is just basically rock formations that have been cut away by the ocean currents and the ocean airs and the salt in the air, and it was just really cool. They actually were filming a Bollywood soap opera when we were kind of walking around these national parks, which is interesting.
That's interesting.
But yeah, they would accommodate you, and so the other place I went to, Cleveland Wildlife Park, that was like a day off I had. They just kind of drove me there and dropped me off, and if I ever wanted to go back into like the city, they would always accommodate that. So that was always really cool. And actually, I forgot to mention this. I was actually in a museum over there, which was a really cool experience as well.
What do you mean, a museum?
So they have this museum. It's called the Migration Museum. And so what they did was they basically took 12 different stories of temporary and permanent visas traveling to Australia, and I got contacted with the museum coordinator through my first host family.
Okay.
And they interviewed me, and they basically put me in the museum, and I think this is the last month that the exhibit is up. It's called Changing Places.
Oh, very cool. So when you said you were in a museum, you were you were in the exhibit.
Yeah, exactly. I got my life-size photo in the exhibit with my story, why I traveled to Australia,
Oh my goodness.
and what I was doing. And it was just a different view and a different program that other people were going through to get to Australia. I mean, there was refugees coming from Syria that were part of that exhibit. There were other families that were, traveling from Northern Europe or Asia, or had all their different stories in there, and mine was just one of the ones that happened to be picked.
Wow. That is really cool.
That's super cool.
Yeah. Now, do you have a pic? Because you didn't see it finished, have you? Like the exhibit? Do you have a picture of it, or?
Yeah, actually, I interviewed like the second week I was there, and 2 weeks before I left, they actually opened up the museum, or opened up the exhibit, and it was actually the 30th anniversary that they were doing, and so I actually got to meet the mayor of South Australia.
Oh my goodness.
And just basically got to take part in their 30th anniversary lunch that they were doing.
Oh, cool. Well, they pulled that exhibit together pretty quickly. Holy smokes, that's great.
Yeah, it was a really, really cool experience.
Yeah. So when you think about your whole experience, what would you say you enjoyed the most?
I would say probably spending time with the families and just, listening and learning from them.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say with a range of different backgrounds of people, and everyone had a different story to tell, and different motivation and inspiration to pass on. And I think just the people I stayed with, that was probably the most beneficial and best experience part of it.
Oh, that's great. That is really cool to know that it was that rewarding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like I said, I would probably woof, 24/7, 365 if I had the opportunity.
Yeah, unfortunately, we have to make a living, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so since I asked you what you most enjoyed, what was the most? Was there anything that was challenging?
Yeah, I would say probably missing my friends and family at home. I mean, when you would get to be around holidays like Halloween, I love Halloween, and Australia doesn't really celebrate it at all. And like I'd see my friends just posting all these pictures on Facebook, and
Yeah.
Thanksgiving rolled around, and you miss your family. But I think that was one of the challenging parts of it was because I was just alone as well. I mean, I just kind of went over there by myself. Didn't know anybody in Australia, and just kind of. I mean, there would be some days where you're missing your friends and family, and you're like, wow, it'd be cool to share this experience with someone I'm really close with. But it was also, a challenge as well, and just, proving yourself in an environment that you have no one and nothing to rely on, really.
Yeah, I don't know if I could have gone alone.
So, Daniel, do you have any recommendations for someone who's considering going through the WWOOF program?
Yeah, I mean, I would actually contact the organization first if you do have any questions. So if you're thinking about going to Canada or Australia, just contact the organization. They'll give you a bunch of information that they've gotten the same questions asked of them every single time someone's just looking into it. So they know what people want to hear and what they want answered, and I would say contact the organization and look on different forums. Just go on Google and search, woofing reviews. That's kind of what I did. I was just looking for any type of review or any type of story of, whether it was great or a bad experience. Like, I read bad experiences, and, I can understand why some people might have had those bad experiences, but the way I looked at it was, if you're positive about any situation, you're going to receive a positive outcome from that situation, regardless of, how you or anybody else interpreted it. If you're positive about it, it's going to be positive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Partly a mindset thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see that being a mindset. So that is it's just really fascinating, and I can't believe I'm just finding out about it now. How about you? Had you heard about it, Matthew? Had you heard about it?
It's been around for, I think, like 30 years or something, and now almost every country in the world has a WWOOF program.
I had heard about it, but I didn't know the name of it or what the program was. At the garden center that I worked at, a lot of the students that were coming through would work part-time, and then they would go away. And there was one who had been to Australia and different parts of the world. So a couple of them had gone through that, but I didn't know what they were going through. So
really?
It was really cool to find out what it actually is, what WWOOF is.
Yeah, that is really interesting. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. That's amazing.
Yeah, did you have any other questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
No, I mean, my head's just swimming with ideas and adventure and how cool it is.
How would you even pick a country, for sure?
How would
you guys should definitely do a Down the Garden Path radio show, woofing style.
So switching gears, well, thank you very much for sharing this with us. And again, bringing it to my attention the last time you were on. And, well, you told me a bit about it when we met each other at the Garden Blogger Fling. That was really the first time I'd heard about it. And then you explained a little bit more on the show. So I thank you, because I think the more we can share about it, because I think it is a great opportunity for people to do, with regardless of where you are in your life. If that obviously an 80-year-old retired person can do that, then that's great for them. How are things switching gears a little bit? How are things at Harris Seeds in the organics department? How are you doing?
Oh, it's going great. Catalog's done. I know the last time I talked to you guys, it was I was about to pull all my hair out from that experience. But catalog's done. We're really happy about it. Right now we're actually getting into the holiday season, so we're actually putting together a lot of indoor gardening collections and kits. On the organic front, there's actually been a decision by the USDA, and I'm not sure where Canada stands on this, but basically the recommendation board said that hydroponics and aquaponics are going to be able to be certified organic. So I'm actually growing a tomato in my cubicle right now in hydroponics. So we're looking into that, and we have hydroponics kits that we're starting to sell here. We have Grow Inside, like an ultimate 365 grow set, and we're actually doing a sweepstakes pretty soon with a YouTube channel, and so we're going to get that going. And so if any of your listeners want to take part in the sweepstakes, they just have to basically watch for it on our Facebook page.
Okay. Excellent. Well, that is great. And so as far as the holiday gifts, those are people can go to their Facebook page or your website to kind of take an online catalog, that type of thing?
Yeah, so you can find all the holiday gift sets and collections on our website. We are actually putting some more up there in the next couple of days, which are going to be organic oriented and focused, and also garden focused. We're starting to supply products like terrarium kits. So if you're trying to plant succulents or air plants inside with your kids, those are another great gift. And we're also doing, for your radio show, we're also putting a promo code out there, which is 8WWOOF, 8WWOOF, and that gets you free shipping on any orders up until December 15th.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much.
Great.
Now, I must remind our listeners, though, that it's only for our U.S. listeners. Unfortunately, you don't ship to Canada.
Well, actually, that's another topic we're getting into at work is talking about getting our phytosanitary certification in place so that we can start shipping into Canada, which is our home garden initiative. We're getting excited about that, and it looks like since we last looked into it, like 10 to 15 years ago, the laws have relaxed a little bit, and we're looking into that really heavily now, and hopefully within the next. Hopefully by next year we'll have that in place.
Excellent. Well, that is great news. Excellent news. So I can see a few more shows in our future, especially this hydroponics. That sounds like a cool show. Matthew's he furiously writing down the details.
Yeah, that's definitely exciting.
Yeah. So you're just testing out growing the tomato in water?
Yeah. So we actually are. We're looking into that, hydroponics. We also have a company that's associated with us that does a lot of manufacturing of garden supplies, greenhouse supplies. So I'm actually meeting with them this week to see what kind of products we can get into development.
Okay.
We actually have aquaponics tanks at our facility right now. One of the tanks we actually drained a couple months ago because of the trout were getting a little too skittish in the tank, and the tank was starting to splash over. But we also have a tank with bass in it, and we are testing a lot of varieties in those tanks. We successfully grew celery, tomatoes, herbs. I know we looked into peppers. So we're really just trying to ramp up our research and our trialing on different genuses in terms of hydroponic growing and aquaponic growing.
Wow, that is cool. So your department is really taken off, isn't it?
Yeah, we're definitely investing a lot of resources, and we're hopeful for the future that we're going to be building a successful brand. And the catalogs that we put out everyone's very receptive and saying it's an amazing catalog. So we're really excited about how that's going to turn out as well.
Excellent. Now, will you send the catalog to Canada? Do you think we can?
Yeah, I can certainly put it in the mail for you tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll send it off to you and Matthew.
Yeah, send us a
Thank
couple.
you.
Yeah, Matthew's how do we get one? Yeah, so that's great to see. That would be wonderful. Well, thank you. And so just to repeat again, so for our U.S. listeners, they go to the website or anything they want to purchase, right, Daniel? To get
any product at all.
Okay, so to get free shipping, the code is 8WWOOF. Free shipping, and so that gets you free shipping until December 15th. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I wanted to thank you once again for being on the show. I will let you know as well. I was just going to talk about it to our listeners, but you can stay on and hang on about that. So just recently, so not only is this a weekly radio show that you can find the link on my website, but I have successfully turned it into a podcast. So now you can download past shows. Not all of them yet, but eventually. But I know your past show, Daniel, is on iTunes. So you kind of, yeah.
Awesome.
So the last, 8 or 9 shows, are on iTunes, and slowly we'll be transitioning them over as soon as I have time, type of thing. So I just wanted to let you know that. So maybe that host family in Australia will be able to hear the show.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll share it on our Facebook page as well.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you once again for being on the show and, updating us about things going on at Harris Seeds, as well as telling us about your great experience with the WWOOF program. So thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on, Joanne and Matthew.
Okay. Bye for now.
Take care.
Well, there you have it. So exciting program.
Very exciting program.
I know.
What great experiences.
Yes, and I'm excited. I know we've been working on the podcast situation, so
very exciting.
Yeah, so there's more steps that needed to happen. So I have to tell you, yeah, it was challenging but successful, and Gary, I mean, it's been great to be able to have those media files and to be able to do that with it.
Absolutely.
And, so that's great. So there's still work in progress, but I feel good that there's a few up there, and yeah.
It'll only grow and get better from here.
I hope so. There's a lot of shows. So in that whole, when I say they're not all going to be up there, but because there's as of next week, there are almost 3 years of shows. Can you believe that, Gary? You've put up with me for most Mondays in the last 3 years.
Excellent.
So we're going to work out some surprises and some ideas for next week's show, but it will be our anniversary show.
Yay.
Yeah, so I think it's I did announce it in my newsletter to my clients about the podcast and the 3rd anniversary, and it just seemed like everything happened all at the same time. So I think it's kind of cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And then the week after, I thought which is our last show of our season, November the 27th show.
27th, right.
Because we normally talk about, what to do in the garden that next month. But I thought maybe the indoor gardens, the greens, tips for the greens, for household plants, for decorating. Because sometimes people really, I know I've done that more. I donated a lot of my artificial stuff and really just want real stuff.
Yeah.
So I thought we could talk a little bit about that and encourage our listeners to bring some of the outdoors inside.
Yes.
For the holidays. So what else? Everything good with you?
Wow. Yeah, everything's good here.
Yeah. And you had, based on your show, you did a great show last week about Christmas trees, and then you spent the day hanging out with 600 Christmas trees.
Yeah, unloading 3 trucks worth of Christmas trees. A lot of work.
A lot of work.
Very heavy. They're very wet from this spring. So
yeah.
So I think there's going to be some really good, healthy live Christmas trees out there.
Excellent. And you hang them, which I think is cool.
Yeah, so that the boughs kind of open up. You can actually see the shape of the tree before you buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and kids love it too.
I was going to say, kids love running through the forest.
Through the swinging trees.
Yes, there's nothing beats that.
No.
And so somebody on a ladder, is that like a 3-man operation to hang these trees? I'm trying to remember. I know I used to work there.
Yeah.
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 So.
No, it usually only takes like 1 or 2 people on a step ladder, and you tie it off to a string that we hang from the roof, and have a brick to, hold it up and kick it and hang her, and she's gone.
Wow.
So, yeah. We're pretty much hanging them all the time.
Yes.
All the day long.
Because they say them, once you sell it.
Sell them so quickly.
Because you're not selling the ones that are in the pile. You're selling the ones that are hanging.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And are they hung by type?
Yeah, so they'll be hung by type and size and price point and stuff like that.
Okay. Because if anybody missed our show last week, Matthew and Gary went over all the different varieties of live trees.
Mm-hmm.
That was a great show, actually.
Yeah, it was. Did you learn a lot?
I did.
Yeah.
I did, quite a bit.
But I emailed my question, but didn't get answered in that. I listened.
Do you
and
remember any of those questions?
I do.
Now?
I remembered. I wanted to know if there was a secret because my only thing, I love a real tree, but I hate lighting it. And that would be like, honestly, I think the reason my husband and I are still married is that we switched, 10, 12 years ago to a pre-lit tree. And we no longer have to argue over how to light the tree.
Yeah, well, that could cause an issue.
Yeah. Anybody
I'm
who,
sure that's number one with marriage counselors.
Yeah, for sure. Between the tangling and we tried the netting, we tried all kinds of things.
Yeah.
But I mean,
you know what the thing, a lot of people just kind of spool them around in hoops.
Yeah.
But it depends on how many lights you have. If you like lots of lights, the best way to do it is go up to a layer of branching and go push your arm in.
Okay.
So run a string up to the trunk and then kind of make a V at the trunk and come back out another. So you're basically zigzagging in and out of the tree as you're moving up. And so you get that kind of 3D right into the core. So you can hang ornaments, came out wrong, into the thicker branches closer to the middle of the tree. But you've got the sparkle really kind of shining them. So you look like you have more deeper and bigger tree than you actually do.
Which is an advantage of the, what did you call them? You didn't, not
the
artificial. Everlasting tree because they are lit that way.
Because they are lit that way. Right.
Yes.
So when you hang ornaments in there, you can,
it
gives you that depth and that character.
Okay, there you go. Well, that was a great show, and that will soon. It's not up on iTunes yet, but that'll be soon. So I think everybody. I think we're out of time, aren't we, Gary? You're about to play.
We are.
Get off. I am giving the hook. You're about to give me the hook. So I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Matthew, Gary, and Daniel, for joining us down the garden path.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Daniel.
Here on Reality Radio 101.
Thank you for listening to Down the Garden Path with your host, Joanne Shaw and Matthew Dressing, right here on Reality Radio 101.